Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're strapping in for a really high-speed tour of the global workforce. The sources we've gathered, they're pointing to a radical transformation. It's not just about, managing remote teams anymore. It's about fundamentally changing how, where, and maybe most importantly, why organizations find talent, the old recruitment rules. Pretty much obsolete now. So our mission today is to, cut through that complexity. We want to distill the strategic shift that's really gripping the global talent market right now. We're going to unpack this pivot away from just simple cost cutting towards something, frankly, more robust, building long-term capability, organizational resilience through what's being called co-creation.
And if you look for what's driving this huge change, it's technology, undeniably. James Milligan, who's a leading voice here, he absolutely nailed it, called AI the Great Leveler.
The great leveler, what does that really mean in practice?
Well, it means location is becoming less and less relevant. If you've got a decent Wi-Fi connection, that's pretty much all you need. People anywhere can access the same training, they can reskill, upskill, elevate the quality of their work. And this huge democratization of skills, it just opens up talent networks everywhere. So, organizations, if they want to stay competitive, they have to rethink their whole workforce strategy, top to bottom.
Okay, let's unpack that strategic evolution then, because resilience, that's the new buzzword, isn't it? But we need to get under the hood, understand the substance. Historically, talent strategy was, you might call it a race to the bottom, prioritizing immediate costs, quickest talent available, optimizing purely for, let's say, efficiency. But the sources show that mindset. It's rapidly being replaced by something more complex, a race to build resilience.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is this shift isn't just some, feel-good management idea. It's driven by necessity, survival even. Ruth Monday, she's a specialist in global talent and supply chain resilience. She points out that recent events, global disruptions, they've just brutally exposed how fragile those older strategies were. When you only focus on immediate cost savings, ignore that long-term capability building, well, your resilience disappears right when you need it most.
So if the old model was just, say, outsourcing basic tasks for cheap labor, what does this co-creation actually look like? Are we talking about embedding highly skilled global teams right into core strategic functions?
Precisely. Co-creation means you're not just executing a task someone else defined. You're integrating these global teams right into the invention process itself. And this change, it's fundamentally altered how markets are perceived. Markets that were once just seen as delivery centers, places for basic execution.
Yeah.
They're now actively driving innovation, commanding strategic importance. We're seeing this everywhere, especially in high-growth, high-trust sectors. Think sophisticated finance, cutting-edge engineering. The strategy isn't about offshoring data entry anymore. It's about sourcing creativity, strategic insight, deep capability to solve complex global problems.
That leads us perfectly to the where, doesn't it? If resilience and co-creation are the new mandates, companies need to know exactly where these sophisticated capabilities are popping up. Let's look at the Global Talent Tracker data. Maybe unpack some specific countries that are rewriting their own talent stories.
Okay, starting in the Americas.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Brazil. Global attention often goes to the established tech hubs, right?
Sure.
But Brazil is showing massive potential, and it's driven almost entirely by its demographics. It's clearly a country on the cusp of transformation. It has this remarkably young population. To get this, nearly half, 49.6%, are under 35.
Wow. And why does that demographic fact matter so much for building resilience?
Well, it's the definition of a long-term investment, isn't it? A young, digitally native population gives you a huge, adaptable talent pipeline, ready to enter the workforce over the next couple of decades. So for an organization looking for sustainable growth, long-term capability, this structure minimizes talent shortages down the line. It ensures a fresh flow of adaptable skills. That's a key part of resilience.
Okay, makes sense.
Now, let's hop over to Asia, specifically India. India is maybe the most compelling example of a country that's just aggressively moved up the value chain. For years, it was seen almost exclusively through that cost efficiency lens.
Right, the old model.
But that story, it's being dramatically rewritten, driven by widespread digital fluency, really bold homegrown leadership, and critically, a world-class banking and finance sector. It rivals any in the West, honestly.
You really can't ignore the momentum there. I think Menes Saigal's comment sums it up perfectly. He said the country's value as a global talent hub is simply impossible to ignore. So it's clearly more than just a large workforce. It's strategically sophisticated now.
Absolutely. Now, moving to Europe. You see a fascinating contrast between size and global impact in Portugal. It's a country that genuinely punches well above its weight in the talent game.
How so?
Well, it successfully combines that incredibly appealing Mediterranean lifestyle with, surprisingly, a really high concentration of specialized AI and data science skills.
Okay, and here's where the strategy gets really interesting, I think. We've heard about some organizations using Portugal's size almost like an advantage. What's this sandbox idea?
It's quite innovative, actually. Organizations are essentially treating the market as a controlled environment, a test bed. They use Portugal as a sandbox to test and fine-tune completely new concepts, maybe new processes, new technologies, before scaling the successful bits across the rest of Europe.
Smart. Local risk.
Exactly. It allows for rapid iteration, minimal risk exposure, and that approach. It's rapidly fueling its domestic tech sector. It's forecast for faster growth than many larger peer markets. It's a great case study in using strategic agility over, brute force.
It really sounds like organizations have to embrace this complexity, this nuance. But this brings us straight to the challenge facing basically every executive trying to make these nuanced global decisions.
Mm-hmm.
The data dilemma. The irony is just staggering. Sources say over half of executives feel, quote, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information they get daily. So the very tools designed to simplify global decisions might actually be having the opposite effect.
Exactly right. This information overload, it ironically hinders the very precise, agile decision-making you need for these modern global strategies. If executives are feeling overwhelmed, it suggests the tools aren't giving actionable insight. They're just generating noise.
So is the problem the sheer volume? Or is it more about, like, a poor interpretation layer on top?
It's a bit of both, but that interpretation layer is absolutely critical. We can sort of break this overload down into three core problems that stall momentum. First, you've got resistance to change. Even when the data strongly points to a new path, maybe investing heavily in Brazil, like we mentioned,
Right.
that evidence-led decision often just clashes with deeply ingrained habits. Or maybe leadership that still prefers gut instinct or just sticks to familiar markets.
Okay, what's second?
Second is the classic analysis paralysis. You know the scenario. Every single dashboard, every complex data model just raises more conflicting questions than it actually answers. So the decision-making process just stalls indefinitely. You lose momentum. And your global competitors, the ones who made a move based on sufficient data, not necessarily perfect data, they win.
Right. Waiting for perfection kills progress.
And third, there are these pervasive gaps in the story. Data is great at showing what happened, or maybe predicting what might happen. We know that. But without crucial human context, without qualitative insight knowing the local customs, the real complexity of the regulatory landscape, it rarely explains why the numbers look the way they do.
So what does this all mean then? It sounds like blind faith in an algorithm is just as risky as blind faith in a gut feeling.
Precisely. Successful workforce planning, it demands a balance. You need rigorous, evidence-based analysis paired with contextual, on-the-ground understanding. David Spence confirms this. He says research might show promising opportunities, a potential hidden gem market, but, quote, the data alone cannot confirm this.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to move beyond the number to confirm if it's viable.
Yeah, and that's why Tim McGrath stresses how indispensable that local context is to really navigate the nuance of market, especially when you're dealing with compliance, cultural factors. You need, as he puts it, a physical presence or a trusted partner in market.
That's
The complexity of global strategy just demands eyes and ears on the ground, not just a clean spreadsheet sent digitally.
Yeah.
Okay, let's connect all these big organizational insights back to you, the listener. Maybe you're looking for your next career move. If organizations are moving globally for resilience, well, maybe candidates should be looking globally for opportunity. We need to look beyond just the salary headline, right? Focus on the overall value proposition. We've got a 5-point checklist for thinking about relocation, focusing on value over just cost. Let's start with number 1, red tape.
Red tape is fundamental. It really affects your lived experience from day one. You have to look into complex payroll systems, potentially tricky tax structures, documentation requirements, especially if you're moving somewhere with a different primary language. The friction this creates, it can easily negate a higher salary on paper.
Yeah.
This is actually why countries like the United Arab Emirates are so successful at attracting talent. They offer clear tax incentives, simplified visa pathways.
Yeah.
They actively position themselves as destinations of choice. They intentionally remove that bureaucratic friction.
Makes sense. Okay, number 2 is lifestyle. You have to evaluate the whole package, don't you? Not just the job. So that means looking at the daily commute, quality of healthcare, schools for your family maybe, the climate, even the general pace of life.
Yeah.
This is where countries like Portugal really shine, making it a powerful talent magnet. Paula Baptista highlights how Portugal leverages its, quote, welcoming, safe, and inclusive culture as a real advantage in the global talent war.
Absolutely. Third point. Skill set demand. Now, this is where you can potentially significantly boost your earning potential. If you move into a region that's actively desperate for your expertise, your leverage increases dramatically. So if you work in high-demand fields, technology, specialized engineering, sophisticated finance, look where those skill shortages are most acute.
Like where?
Well, the sources show, for instance, fast-growing tech hubs in Spain. Think Barcelona, Madrid. They're driving massive ongoing demand for skilled STEM professionals right now. They're offering substantial rewards for people willing to relocate.
Okay, good tip. Fourth is culture fit. This feels critical for long-term happiness, right? Job satisfaction, career sustainability.
Definitely.
Work cultures vary enormously. Ignoring a potential clash there could lead to burnout pretty quickly.
Oh, for sure. Take the specific sharp contrast of Japan, for instance. Grant Torrens notes that loyalty, collective success, these are deeply rooted values there. And that affects everything, including how you progress in your career. Promotions are traditionally, quote, based on tenure rather than merit.
Wow, that's a huge difference for someone, say, from a highly mobile, performance-driven background who expects quick progression based on individual results.
It's massive. If you're used to a high meritocracy culture, moving to a market where collective harmony and time served dictate your path, well, that requires a huge personal value alignment. It's often overlooked, but absolutely essential.
Okay, and finally, point 5. Value versus cost. We need to really challenge that salary headline number. A higher gross paycheck doesn't automatically mean you're better off financially. You absolutely have to focus on net income and the true cost of living.
Exactly right. Look at countries like Sweden and Denmark. They have some of the highest tax rates globally, yes.
Right?
But those higher rates, they fund extremely generous social benefits, world-class public health care, subsidized education, strong unemployment safety nets, excellent infrastructure. For many people, the value proposition of having that robust, reliable social support reduced individual risk. It far outweighs the gross salary difference compared to a low-tax, low-benefit country. It's really an evaluation of total quality of life and financial security.
A much broader picture.
So just to synthesize the core takeaways from this deep dive, the global talent landscape. It's incredibly mobile, fundamentally powered by AI leveling the skills playing field. Organizations really must pivot their strategic focus, move away from simple cost-cutting towards building that long-term resilience and capability through co-creation. And that means embracing local nuance over just pure, uncontextualized data.
And for you, the individual candidate, the best career move isn't just about chasing the highest gross salary anymore. It's found by balancing high skill set demand with a complete cultural and financial fit. Always focus on that net value, the total quality of life and opportunity. Access to reliable contextualized data is key for both sides, isn't it? Which is why having a comparable view across different markets, like the 35 countries in the Global Talent Tracker, helps stop you from making, uninformed leaps.
Absolutely critical.
So we know AI is the great leveler. It's creating these high-skill opportunities truly anywhere in the world. This raises, I think, an important final question for everyone listening. Whether you're hiring or looking for your next role, in an era where technical skills can genuinely be sourced from anywhere, how does an organization effectively scale the essential lived experience? That local context needed to truly navigate the nuance of these complex emerging markets without just getting trapped in analysis paralysis. That feels like the strategic challenge for the next decade, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do you scale empathy alongside efficiency? Something to mull over until our next deep dive.